It's very, very dangerous.
Get these spidey sense, I was like, oh, something's off.
And I'm just like, man, I'm waiting to hear something,
Keep that crowd warmed up. Is Mr. Yahola Tiger.
Admiral Richard E. Byrd's diary, February, March 1947. The land beyond the poles. The exploration flight over the North Pole. The inner Earth. My secret diary. I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. It concerns my Arctic flight of the 19th day of February in the year of 1947. There comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance, and one must accept the inevitability of the truth. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation at this writing. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny. But I must do my duty and record here for all to read one day. In a world of greed and exploitation of certain of mankind, one can no longer suppress that which is truth.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the 13th episode of the War Cry Podcast. I'm your host, Yahola Tiger. So, like I said, this is the second episode in the quote-unquote, I guess you could call it double feature. I'm not sure if, not even a feature, but like, I don't know, 2 episodes, just drop it, just want to try something new, see what's going on. This episode is going to be about, as you guys can tell by the intro, it is going to be about Antarctica and the secret diary of General Richard Byrd. I forgot his name there for a second. And as you guys can tell, this episode I'm not gonna put on YouTube. I don't really want to be I'm not even 100 subscribers into YouTube, and I don't want to get a strike already. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this episode is classified and was leaked by General Byrd on his deathbed. It's not. He never thought that this was going to be public, as you guys could tell, by that journal entry that I just played. One thing too that I find very interesting about Antarctica, just as a whole. So there was a treaty back in the 1800s. I think it was 1867, I believe, and essentially what it did is it allowed certain countries to be a part of it, and to explore Antarctica, but at a certain level. Like, there's no one going up to the furthest point of Antarctica. Like, there's only certain designated bases, and that's basically all. I mean, whoever signed that treaty, and I know we did. I know Russia did, and I want to say it has to do something with NATO. But I don't even want to touch NATO, but. So, how this whole thing started was they wanted to look in to see what's going on with Antarctica. Like, what is there, what more is there to see? I'm going to cover 2 different theories. One of the theories is known by, people that have researched this. The other theory is kind of wild. I'm going to keep it a buck. It's pretty wild. So that's why I am saying allegedly, kind of not saying it's 100% sure, not saying I believe it. I'm just saying this is a theory I'm going to discuss because I like to talk. I like to talk about things that kind of wild, like the episode 11 Bob Ross. Like, I had some people, and with Bob Ross having such a nice voice, I kind of felt bad. Like, a little bit bad. I was like, oh man, I'm ruining some people's childhoods, like even discussing that this might be a possibility or this could have happened. So I'm kind of like, oh, well, I feel kind of bad for that, but it is what it is. But so how this whole thing gets started is there was an operation called Operation High Jump. And essentially what that was they were going to explore. He had multiple voyages into Antarctica. But his final one is kind of the one that everyone talks about. General Byrd had one of the most massive exploration teams maybe ever. And they essentially got, pretty far into Antarctica. So on their first day, or first type of, day of exploration, they started noticing that there was a smaller set of mountains that kind of ran in kind of a pattern, almost like a wall. As you guys like, an example of that would be like the Appalachian Mountains. Like, people were not, like back in the old days, people weren't, that's not like the best way to go through. Now, people found out ways to, to kind of maneuver through there as the years went on, but it was almost like basically like a natural wall. And he finds this natural wall, and he thought it was kind of odd, like once you got past those mountains, there was kind of a weird disturbance in the flight. And this is all coming from his diary, by the way. Like I said, this is all from his diary. And he thought it was kind of strange that like none of the instruments were working, but the helicopter and the vehicle that he was in was still working. And so they get past the mountains, and they notice that things kind of dropped back to normal. Well, but they couldn't reach base, and they couldn't get back to anybody. And he notices basically these streams, like in the middle, and it was still like snow on the ground and stuff. Like it wasn't like, it was still looking like Antarctica, but it was streams running through, different crevices of this kind of mountain chain as he got over it. And I'm gonna play a clip of what he sees next after that.
1,000 hours. We are crossing over the small mountain range and still proceeding northward as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. 10:05 hours. I alter altitude to 1,400 feet and execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below us. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp. 10:30 hours. The external temperature indicator reads 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Continuing on our heading now. Navigation instruments seem normal now. I am puzzled over their actions. Attempt to contact base camp. Radio is not functioning.
So that is a part of the kind of his secret diary that that I mentioned earlier, and that I played that other audio clip at the very beginning. Now, this is where I'm going to insert kind of the official record. So the operation ended later that month, in February, and the official kind of, I guess you'd say, press release was that they had to abort the mission due to worsening winter climates, and they were unable to fly, and use their machinery. And so they basically just abandoned it at the end of that month. Here's what kind of I find very interesting about what followed that. So Admiral Byrd did multiple interviews with non-American news outlets, or United States, or any of that nature. He did one with the Chilean, I want to say it was Chilean press release or press group, and then he also did the International News Service as well. And in those interviews, they kind of, I don't have the actual quotes, but what I do have is basically a kind of, I guess, a summary of what he said. He goes on in both of those interviews to say that America and the United States and its allies need to be ready for an invasion of either one or more poles. And so, as I say that, I want you to think: what do you think that could be? What did he really see that made him be like, man, we cannot, this is going to get bad. Whoever invades us it's going to get bad. And he said, basically, he goes on to say that we used to think back in the old days, we used to think that land, ocean, and ice and weather would be able to stop us, from certain invasion. And those days are over. And he goes on to mention that I don't want to scare anybody, but I would say there's something coming from the poles. When I read that, I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, oh, that's kind of okay. So we're gonna get back into his diary, and to me, this is where the official record and the conspiracy go the opposite directions. As you guys know, he saw woolly mammoths. One thing too that people are not talking about right now, and this has been said on the Joe Rogan podcast by multiple people that are knowledgeable about. I don't want to say that. I was going to say the Human Genome Project, but that's like some Bigfoot stuff. Basically, they're trying to recreate woolly mammoths and place them in Siberia because of the weather. That basically the woolly mammoths warmed the globe. Crazy theory, but that's essentially what that they're trying to do in Siberia is what I'm assuming. But they're trying to recreate woolly mammoths, and they're taking Indian elephants, who are the closest living relatives to the woolly mammoths, and using the CRISPR type DNA thing that can adjust DNA and things of that nature. So I'm going to play this next clip, and this is where it gets kind of wild. I want everyone to just listen, and if you believe it, you don't, whatever. But I'm going to play that now.
11:30 hours. Countryside below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God! Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They're close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. 11:35 hours. Our radio crackles and a voice comes through in English, with what perhaps is a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral. You're in good hands." I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless. 11:40 hours. Another radio message received. We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down with only a slight jolt. 11:45 hours. I am making a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men are approaching on foot toward our aircraft. They are tall, with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city, pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what's going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I comply. End log.
Whew. I told y'all it'd get pretty wild over here. Man, so he sees these things, and, that's kind of the end of what he talks about that I've seen. when it comes to these tall, blonde-headed type beings. Now, there is a theory, and this is where, like I said, where it goes with this. As I told y'all, there's going to be a theory that's going to be kind of wild. It's going to be super wild, actually. Not kind of wild, super wild. And the theory is that Germany lost the war, but the Nazis won the war. Like, the Nazis didn't lose, they just moved. They just left. And as you guys remember in Operation Paperclip, the United States moved a lot of, those people over here and to do different things and to advance us. I've always, this is, I believe that 100% on the Operation Paperclip. Now, I have trouble with the Operation High Jump, that theory with this, because we don't know what happened. But the theory is that Germany lost and the Nazis moved, and they moved up to Antarctica. That's been a theory going around for a long time, and General Byrd is basically the only person that ever has come out and said that, and had made those remarks about this type of thing. And I cannot remember what the name that they have for this society that's in this area. And it's in basically Greenland. And I can't remember if it's the Vril Society. And I probably shouldn't even say the name. But I think that's the name of it. But basically they're blonde-haired, very pale, blue-eyed people that control things. And that's kind of the theory that's been going around for a while. But what do you guys think? Just the information I've given you. I'm a lot of the fact of I'm not trying to get super deep into the details. I just want to hit the overview, especially with a topic like this. It's kind of wild. I knew this. I mean, there's a lot more. He went into different. There's different animals that that are around and in that area where he was at. And so he just saw the woolly mammoth, but he also saw other different things. And I don't know. What do you guys think, though? Kind of interesting, kind of wild. I knew the Antarctica one was going to be pretty wild because I know, that's one thing that we don't know. We don't go there anymore. We stop at a certain point and that's it. All governments, that's what they do. In that time that they were doing Operation High Jump, they set up Little America, is what they call it, and it's a station that has multiple, basically a town of scientists, and we don't know what they do. Nobody's allowed. All the airspace is controlled, and if you look up different General Byrd things, there are pictures, allegedly, of what they saw, and the things that were there. So I don't know. It's up for you to decide. I always like talking about things that are kind of wild. You just got to throw one out here. I know the Bob Ross one was kind of crazy. And I know I kept it kind of light with episode 12 because I was setting up for episode 13, and it's pretty wild. But I hope you guys enjoyed. You guys can follow me on TikTok, OneManBand918, Twitter, OneManBand918. You can follow me on Facebook or add me on Facebook. Send me a message. Let me know who you are. Also, I am taking stories. I've gotten a few of them. I've posted the one, obviously, the one with Derek. Really appreciate him. His episode's doing really well. But like I said, if you guys have other stories, you can remain anonymous, and you can just tell your story. I'll post it on here, and we'll just keep it moving. But I appreciate everybody listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.